I am back on the green car today. I'm super curious as to why the engine has a really strange vibration. Today I'm going to pull the engine out, see if I can determine what's wrong. I think it's something up with the clutch, the flywheel pressure plate, something in that area. It's causing an imbalance like around 3,000 to 4,000 RPM when you drive it. It just vibrates, and I think I know what's wrong, but I got to pull the engine out, so let's do that. And these towels are to protect the axle tubes. They're, nicely painted, so I don't want to scratch them. When these heat exchanger ducts, they actually rest on the tubes for a little bit while the engine's coming out. So I have them taped up on both sides with rags. There's rods that go between here and here. Normally you'd have to disconnect those. I just took the torque off those nuts. That's what holds the engine onto the transmission. And my jack is just a simple jack, but it does have this plate that I made and these nylon blocks. Those nylon blocks go on either side of the sump plate. And this one right here kind of locks into this little channel right here. So it really prevents the engine from sliding off. Of course, the lift certainly helps. That supports the weight of the engine. Now I'm going to take the bolts out and just pull her back. Just adding some cardboard so the air horns are just touching the transmission hoop. The other thing I've done is I put a towel right here up against the shelf because the pulley nut gets very close to the opening. Okay, see that jack right there, the scissor jack? It allows me to control the angle of the engine without a helper. And then if you look inside here, the engine is all the way to the rear. It's actually, the belt is touching the opening of the shelf. And now what I'll do is I'll just tilt the engine, I'll tilt the engine back a little bit so that nut clears. And then I just got to make sure those air horns clear the axle tubes, which looks like it's already doing. Pretty close here. And then this carburetor is real close to the side there. So I have that piece of cardboard just kind of preventing it from digging in. All right, so now I'm under the axle tubes. I can actually push the engine towards the front just so that this nut clears, and just watch the carburetors as it goes through the opening. Okay, all is pretty good in here. No real damage to the car. This side here is perfectly good. This side over here has just got like a tiny little mark. I think the cardboard basically just touched the edge of the paint there. The paint doesn't really stick really well to the edge. So there's a tiny little touch up there. Nothing on this surface. I had the cardboard there. There's a little bit of marking on the side of that. It's going to be hard to see. You'll never see it. Probably touch that up from underneath. But, no damage at all to the car, which pulling the engine out to me was the right choice. These heater tubes were kind of mangled when I got them, so I hammered them out, but they didn't get any extra damage. That's basically just how they are. They're sort of round. The accelerator pumps are the other things you need to look out for. This linkage here can really get bent, or this arm here can really get bent, or if you're really not careful, you break the whole top of the carburetor off when that bolt clears. This linkage here is also fine. You see how that works. There's no damage at all to the screws or any of the bolts or anything like that. So here's the pressure plate and clutch, and this was balanced years ago when I redid the engine. And you can see that at the time they welded a pretty large weight here on one side. That's welded on, and then on the flip side over here, they took weight off. When I might have taken this off and put it on incorrectly. There are some places where it's pinned, like I think right here is a hole where it should be pinned. So I just need to look and see if it's possible that I messed it up, because here looks like those holes might line up, but I'm just not sure if it's in its original position. So I'm going to have it all rebalanced, make sure this is not the issue. So I'm going to mark where I think this is lined up. Right there, and then I'll pull it off, see what we see. Nothing looks bad, it just looks kind of rusty inside here. This is the clutch disc, which looks fine. Very thick, so not a lot of wear on that. And then this nut here also could be, loose is a possibility. So other than the mounting bolts here, there are two holes. One here, which you'd think there would be a pin in there. There's one there, and then there's one there. And I'm not sure which one is the correct one. These bolts also fit pretty loose. So I'm wondering if maybe just because the pin fell out, this thing is just not centered. Because I think that would make a huge difference. The next possible place to mount it would be here. Doesn't really, there's a hole here, and it doesn't really line up with that hole either. So it sort of appears that this was on correctly, Either way, I'm gonna take the flywheel off. I'm gonna have the whole assembly checked on a dynamic balancer just to see, how far off it is and if that's really the source of the problem. So none of the springs are missing, none of the rivets are missing. So I don't think the problem is in the clutch disc itself. This is just the stock clutch made by Sachs. There's a painted engine stand for a change. This one is looking for a new home. Act now. I'm not going to be able to get the flywheel off, but I'm hoping I can at least crack that nut loose. It's, I think, 350 plus foot-pounds, so it's going to probably torque this whole thing. This right here is my simple flywheel lock. It's just a piece of sheet metal. There we go. So this strap will be in tension when I'm turning the nut counterclockwise. And then this is the famous bar, or not famous, but this is the bar I used when I did that chassis testing. I twisted my entire car with it, so this will put some torque on it. Here we go. So that nut is not loose. So I'm actually twisting the entire engine on the frame, and that's a pretty wide base. So now I need to put another bar in the frame to prevent it from twisting. Oop, that one just barely doesn't fit. Okay, this bar is not really rated for loads, but you just use what you got. It's a 6-foot bar, so I need about 70 pounds out here to break this free, hopefully. And that feels more like 100 pounds. So this nut is really tight. And this, and you can put your feet on that. You know what I mean?
Yep. This right here?
Yep, wherever you can push, it's gonna kind of be. Ready? Okay, you can let go.
No.
Do it again.
You doing lefty loosey?
Done. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. So it's now finger pressure, but it feels like there might be some Loctite on this. And so that's why it's so tight. So now I got to take it back off the engine stand to get the flywheel off. I mean, these threads look great, but there's probably like a little bit of dust in there, which kind of means that's just a residue of Loctite. Should slip right off. Okay, there's that. That's the part that goes against the seal. And then this is the soft iron gasket here. And of course, that's the seal. I'll probably replace this seal too, because it feels pretty firm. Like, it should be pretty soft. This thing has been sitting so many years, and it's got an inner lip and an outer lip. So I'm not sure if this is the right seal anyways. See how it's eating up that outer lip? There's a little bit of dust in there. Because what happens is that inner lip rides right up against the edge of the flywheel, and it just eats it up. What do you guys think about the nut? Is it reusable or not? So the other thought is the vibration could be coming from this cooling fan. And looks like it spins pretty true. And it doesn't wobble or vibrate or anything. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna attach my drill to the other side and spin it up and see how much it wobbles. So this is just a rubber fuel hose and an Allen bolt here, just as a coupler. It's at least 2,000 RPM though. So we're just gonna start it up slow. So I don't see any vibration coming from that. I mean, this motor is loose on the jack, and so if it's vibrating, it would shake this whole thing. That's not the problem. However, I may take apart that fan and get it balanced at the same time. And no super obvious smoking guns or anything, but I am going to take all the spinning parts out to be rebalanced. That includes the cooling fan and probably the crank pulley too. Just gonna have it all balanced, and that'll put my mind at ease. If you can think of something else I should check, please let me know. My suspicion is I think when the pressure plate was bolted on, it didn't have the pins in place, and so the pressure plate drooped down in the bolts and wasn't concentric with the input shaft. I think that's what's causing the vibration, but I don't know.